12:30 local time, the forests near Boshkovo, Russia, lay drowned in fog. 120 miles from the Kremlin, silence was about to be broken. A small Ukrainian FPV drone slipped across the border, no larger than a backpack. Strapped beneath it was a 2-pound shaped charge, silent, steady, built to shatter steel. Its target was no ordinary pipeline. This was the Ryazan-Moscow artery, a $3 billion lifeline of fuel. Every day it pumped more than 1 million barrels toward Moscow. Gasoline for tanks, diesel for convoys, jet fuel for strike aircraft. Without it, Russia's war machine would choke. In Moscow, Igor Sechin, Russia's oil king, would soon face Putin's fury. In the fog outside Boshkovo, soldiers gripped rifles. Radars swept the skies. They waited for fighters at 40,000 feet. They never saw the drone hugging the ground, inches above the trees. The night was still. The drone closed in. The only question was how much of Russia's war machine would burn. At 11:15 p. local, August 25, 2025, the Belarus-Russia border was alive. Ukrainian operators crouched beside crates, engines ticking in the dark. 15 Mugen 5 decoy drones waited on wooden skids, cheap plywood with loud engines built to die. In a forest near Boshkovo, a bakery truck sat still, its cargo deadlier than it looked. 2 Rebab FPV drones were locked inside, tethered with spools of fiber optic cable. Across the sector, Russian defenses lit up in unison. S-400 batteries spun their 92N6E radar, able to spot a fighter jet at 250 miles. Pantsir S-1 launchers powered on, each carrying 57 E-6 missiles, streaking at 2,300 miles per hour. Krasuka 4 jammers warmed, flooding the skies with static over a 120-mile radius. An Orlan 10 recon drone idled on a pad, its thermal camera primed for the hunt. Crews sealed hatches. Orders snapped across radios. Engines rumbled low beneath the fog. The chessboard was set, pieces in place. All that remained was the opening move. Weeks before the strike, Ukraine's military intelligence was already shaping the battlefield. Analysts in Kyiv sifted through streams of satellite data provided by American partners. Every bend of the Ryazan-Moscow pipeline was traced. Every pumping station and valve was logged on digital maps glowing green against the dark. They weren't hunting the whole line, just one weak link. Near Boshkovo, the artery narrowed across rolling ground, shielded only by forest. It was a place the Russians thought safe, far from cities and eyes. To Ukraine, it was the perfect pressure point, waiting to be severed. By mid-August, the plan was locked. Coordinates, timing, launch windows, every piece slotted into place like a chess move. The drone crews studied the route in silence, memorizing every hill and river crossing. When the clock struck, they would fly blind, but not unprepared. The maps were ready, the operators were ready, and now the pipeline's fate was sealed. At 11:15 p. local time, the first pieces of the trap took flight. 15 Mugen 5 drones clawed into the sky, plywood frames rattling like lawnmowers with wings. Each cost less than $500, loud, dumb, and disposable. Their mission was simple: buzz, distract, and die spectacularly. Russian radars lit up in seconds, to the operators staring at glowing screens. The sky seemed alive with intruders. Blips crawled across their scopes, pulling eyes and missiles away from the real show. But Ukraine hadn't stopped there. A second wave of Lyot long-range drones streaked toward Ryazan's massive refinery. These weren't plywood toys. They carried heavy warheads designed to gouge steel and set tanks ablaze. Now the defenders faced a choice: defend the Lifeline pipeline or protect a refinery worth billions. Engines buzzed over the border, radars hummed, and commanders barked orders on their maps. Targets multiplied like ghosts. The trap was open, yet the Russians had no idea where the real blow would land. At 12:05 filled a Russian bunker 30 feet underground. Screens glowed red as operators tracked slow targets drifting from the northwest. 15 icons blinked across the map, the Mugen 5 decoys. The commander barked orders. Krasuka 4 jammers roared to full power, washing the sky in static. Control links snapped. Cheap drones spiraled down like broken toys. The survivors were shredded by Pantsir S-1 cannons, tracers ripping the night apart. Then new contacts appeared. Liat long-range drones streaked toward Ryazan's massive refinery. S-400 launchers fired a salvo, each missile racing at 2,300 miles per hour. On radar, one by one, the attackers turned into fireballs. Within minutes, every target on the board was gone. A clean sweep, a perfect defense. The operators exhaled, pride flickering in their eyes. But the commander didn't smile. The decoys were too obvious. The refinery strike too predictable. His voice cut the silence. This is a feint. They're hiding something else. 12 miles from the pipeline, a battered bakery truck sat hidden beneath the trees. Its rusted panels and faded paint made it look harmless. Another delivery lost in the dark. But inside, the cargo was anything but ordinary. 2 Rebab FPV drones rested on custom racks, each spooled with 12 miles of fiber optic cable. The tether promised a crystal-clear 4K feed, immune to Russian jamming. It also meant the crew had to sit close, too close, to the target they intended to strike. The driver gripped the wheel, knuckles white, listening to every sound in the forest. Every pothole threatened to snap a connection. Every passing pair of headlights could be the last thing they saw. In the back, an operator sat rigid, goggles ready, waiting for the signal. This truck was no bakery run. It was a Trojan horse on wheels, and once the decoys drew fire, the hidden blade inside would cut straight to Russia's heart. The bunker was quiet again. Screens showed empty skies. Every hostile target erased. Operators exchanged cautious smiles, but the commander's eyes never left the map. The refinery strike was too obvious, the decoy wave too loud. Something felt wrong, like a magician's trick hiding in plain sight. His finger traced the thin green line of the Ryazan-Moscow pipeline. It was silent, untouched, yet vital. "Get an Orlan 10 in the air now," he ordered. Engines roared above the bunker as ground crews rolled the recon drone into place. Light and compact, it could stay aloft for 16 hours. Its thermal camera could spot movement under 200 feet, where radars failed. The S-400 could see a fighter jet at 250 miles, but not this. Wings lifted into the night, slicing through fog. The Orlan banked, sensors sweeping low valleys and dark tree lines. The hunter leaned forward in his chair. What he didn't know was that the prey was already hunting him. From the back of the truck, the first Rebab drone slipped into the fog. Its electric motor hummed faintly as it pushed to 60 miles per hour. The fiber optic tether fed a flawless 4K view into the operator's goggles. Hands tightened on the controls. Every second counted now. Above the trees, the Orlan 10 swept back and forth, its thermal camera glowing. It hunted for a signature under 200 feet, searching for anything alive below. The Ukrainian drone skimmed just feet over the canopy, weaving through dark ridges and valleys. Every open field ahead was a kill zone waiting to swallow it whole. The pilot leaned into terrain masking, hugging rivers, ducking under power lines. One slip and the Orlan's sensors would lock on, passing data to the waiting guns. This was no longer a strike mission. It was a duel in the dark, cat and mouse at 60 miles an hour. The Orlan's thermal feed caught it, a lone heat signature darting across a field. Coordinates flashed across the link to a waiting Pantsir S-1 battery miles away. Its crew locked on instantly. A 57 E-6 missile roared skyward, climbing to 2,300 miles per hour. The Ukrainian pilot saw the warning, yanked the stick hard left, and dove. The drone screamed across the treetops, the missile slashing past by inches. Relief lasted only seconds. The violent maneuver wrenched at the fiber optic tether. Glass strained, then snapped. On the operator's goggles, the crystal-clear 4K image dissolved into static. Control vanished in a blink. The drone slammed into Russian soil, a useless wreck in the dirt. But the real disaster wasn't the loss of a machine. That snapped tether had left a 12-mile breadcrumb trail across the countryside, and every inch of it pointed straight back to the waiting truck. Inside the panel truck, silence shattered with a coded flash on the laptop screen. Position compromised. Evacuate now. The driver slammed the gear stick forward, wheels spinning mud as the vehicle lurched through the trees. Branches scraped metal, headlights flickered. The whole truck rattled like it might split in two. In the back, the second operator felt the blood drain from his face. One drone was gone. The cable was a trail leading Russian eyes straight to them. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before VDV patrols sealed the forest. He made a choice against every line in the manual. Skip pre-flight, skip calibration, launch now or die here. Hands moved fast, unlocking clamps, flipping breakers, arming batteries. The pneumatic catapult fired with a violent hiss. The rebab drone shot out the back of the moving truck, vanishing into fog. Chaos followed. The drone's inertial navigation spun wild, sensors clawing for a reference point mid-air. For long seconds, it bucked and wobbled, fighting turbulence from the truck's slipstream. Inside, telemetry lights flickered red to green, green back to red. The operator clenched his teeth, goggles pressed hard to his face. Every bounce of the truck jolted his hands, throwing the tiny aircraft off balance. The fiber optic cable unspooled wildly from the speeding vehicle, straining against physics. One tangle, one snag on the forest floor, and the mission would end here. But then, the drone steadied, gyros locked, wings leveled. The camera feed snapped clear. The operator exhaled for the first time in a minute. They had done the unthinkable, a hot launch in full flight. Now the entire $3 billion mission rested on this single fragile craft, and a crew running for their lives through the dark. The truck jolted through the forest as encrypted comms crackled in the operator's ear. VDV units converging, dragnet closing. Every instinct screamed to cut the tether and run. But without the drone, the mission was dead. The pilot pushed forward, forcing the rebab to drop even lower. Now it skimmed open ground at just 50 feet, skirting tree lines and hedgerows. At that suicidal altitude, the AI flight controller strained at its limits. Branches blurred inches beneath the wings, the fiber optic cable whipping behind like a live wire. Above, the Orlan 10 circled at 500 feet, its thermal camera sweeping wide arcs. From that height, the drone was nearly invisible, just a heat smudge against warm Earth. But the danger never left. One clear pass, one unlucky angle, and the Orlan would see everything. The pilot fought to keep control as the machine screamed across a farmer's field. Every bump of the truck jolted his hands. Every shadow looked like crosshairs. He knew the careful, cautious route was impossible now. Only a straight line remained, pedal to the metal, no turning back. The cable strained, telemetry flickered, and sweat dripped inside the goggles. Then the operator heard the Orlan's engine through the roof, banking hard overhead. The search widened. Its thermal camera swept the landscape and suddenly caught a long, glowing line, running too straight, too bright, through the dark. The pipeline was exposed, and the drag race to the finish line had just begun. The drone skimmed the last treetops, cable whipping behind like a live nerve. Through the operator's goggles, the world narrowed to a single glowing curve of steel. The Ryazan-Moscow pipeline, 40 inches wide, stretched across the fog like a silver artery. There were 3 seconds left. The pilot pushed forward, throttle maxed, altitude steady at 50 feet. The Orlan roared overhead, its camera swinging too late. The Russian commander screamed into his headset, ordering every gun to fire. But there was no time left for missiles, no time for jamming. The rebab slammed into the pipeline, warhead armed. 2 pounds of shaped explosive punched inward, cutting through steel like butter. The blast didn't just rupture the line, it turned the artery inside out. High-pressure gasoline erupted, aerosolized in an instant. Air mixed with fuel, forming a giant bomb above the forest floor. Ignition followed in a heartbeat. A fireball 300 feet high boiled upward, painting the night an orange light. The shockwave ripped outward, buckling steel designed to hold pressure only from within. 200 feet of pipeline split wide, flames racing down the corridor like a fuse. Ground shook as if an earthquake had struck. Windows shattered in villages miles away. Initial estimates would later put repair costs at $50 million, but the true blow was worse. More than $250 million in fuel vanished in smoke, leaving entire armored divisions dry. Tanks do not roll on empty promises. Jets do not take off on fire and ash. In that instant, Ukraine's gamble paid off. A $12,000 strike deleting a $3 billion lifeline. And inside the fleeing bakery truck, the operator ripped off his goggles. Just as the shockwave slammed into the forest like a giant's fist, the shockwave hit the truck like a hammer. Metal groaned, tires lifted. The whole frame lurched sideways. For a heartbeat, the driver thought they would roll into the ditch. He clenched the wheel, knuckles white, fighting mud and gravity together in the back. The operator ripped the goggles from his face. Static still burned across the lenses, ghostly sparks of a dead feed. His ears rang, chest heaving, but he knew what that silence meant. The drone was gone because it had done its job. He couldn't see the fireball that turned night into day, but he felt the heat pressing through steel panels. He felt the shock still rippling through his bones. Somewhere beyond the trees, Russia's lifeline was burning. Neither man spoke. There was no cheer, no fist raised in triumph, just heavy breathing, the smell of oil and sweat, and the rattle of an old truck. Victory felt quiet, almost unreal, like a secret too heavy to carry. Two ordinary men had just crippled an empire. Their courage, their resilience, had cut deeper than any missile barrage, and now their only mission was survival, because Russia would be hunting them before the flames died. $12,000 in plywood and circuitry had just erased a $3 billion artery. The strike cost less than a single Russian missile battery, but it crippled an entire front. Repair crews would spend $50 million patching the steel, yet the real damage was $250 million in lost fuel and a stalled army. This was asymmetric warfare in its purest form. Cheap machines guided by courage and intelligence reshaped the battlefield overnight. Ukraine proved that creativity, not just firepower, could cut the Kremlin's lifelines. It was a reminder that resilience, courage, and freedom still outweighed brute force. For Moscow, the lesson was bitter. Tanks do not roll without fuel. Jets do not fly without gas. No empire is safe when one weak link can be struck in the dark. For the world, the message was clear. The rules of war are changing, and Ukraine-Russia news will keep telling the stories that prove it. So what would you name this daring mission? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more Ukraine-Russia news.